So we got to thank these sponsors, man. So first and foremost, you know we got to thank Gamma. Man, they make a lot of stuff possible. They've been really taking care of your boy. And if you guys need to order anything from Gamma, you need clippers, you need trimmers, you need some sick new blades, they got a lot of cool stuff, man. Use my code Eddie and you'll save 10%. And also I want to thank Booked In, another sponsor of mine. If you guys are looking for a great scheduling app, check out Booked In. I got them in the link down below. Thirdly, I also want to thank 614 Barber Supply, because anything that Gamma doesn't have, whenever you're going to step outside of Gamma, whenever you're going to get something, use code Eddie with 614 Barber Supply. They're a great group of guys that's supporting local. They'll ship fast, they got great products, and they got a great selection. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the YouTube Barber Academy. Now, the army is growing strong. We're almost at 100K and growing, and the Barber Tuition Initiative is in full swing. So I want you guys to check that out. Look at the link down below, click, and we're asking for the price of a single haircut. With these contributions and some from our bigger sponsors, we are going to be going and paying off barber tuitions for people who are in need. So if you guys know anybody who's in need, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll put them on my short list. But with that being said, today's video is phase 5 of 6, the edge up. Now, it's a relatively simple but complicated matter, and there's all kinds of confusion around it. So with that being said, let's get started. I'd like to preface this by saying that if you push your client too far back because you're obsessed with perfection, that's not good either, because in only 2 days, they're gonna look bad, and so are you when they're walking around with an inch of regrowth. So we can all agree that some clients, they can have a picture perfect edge up without going crazy deep, and some clients, they just can't. So you're just gonna have to do the best with what you have to work with. Okay? So first off, we have the handshake grip. Just as if I was shaking hands with somebody, I'm going to hold it like this.
And it isn't always seated in the back of my palm, it's in my fingers. And also, don't be afraid to put it in 2 hands if you feel like you need a little extra control. I use a 2-hand grip all the time when I feel like I just need just a little bit more control over it.
And my other favorite grip to use is the pencil grip. But beyond the actual hold, there's a few things that the pros do that can help you aid in consistency, and we're gonna get into that right now. Maintaining consistency. I like to use 3 points of contact. It's really going to help you here. But when people are first starting, a lot of times they're just sort of hovering the trimmer and they're sort of hoping for the best. Even if you watch what I do, you still might not see it. So let's watch this clip real quick and comment down below if you're able to spot it before I tell you.
I'm in the game, I was on the bench. First I was renting, now I'm collecting rent. First it with the Beamer, now I want the Benz. Spending all.
Okay, so we've seen the clip. So not only do I have my left hand on the top of his head, so I'm holding him for consistency, that's gonna help me. And then I'm also going to use the inside of my knuckle and I'm going to do my tapping. As soon as I tap, I got 3 points of contact. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult doing it this way. So in order to do it, I like to actually use the pencil grip, and I kind of anchor right there on their nose and I go across. And I'm using both my fingertips, and I'm able to be super, super consistent, and I can really be accurate about what I'm doing. To start with, let's discuss something I feel is important when it comes to creating sharp lines. The way that you hold the trimmer in regards to the angle of attack will impact the width of the line. The moving blade is the only thing that cuts, and the further away from the head it is, the more skinny your line's going to be. So basically, all I'm trying to say is the further I get my trimmer almost straight up and down, the skinnier that line's gonna be. But as I close that angle down, now the cutting blade is contacting the scalp and it's going to make it wider. So when I do a hard part, I'm usually pretty careful.
And let's keep in mind that there's 2 parts to every hard part. There's the top line and then there's the bottom lines.
So the other way we might use a trimmer, it's called raking. If I was to take this trimmer and move it up into the grain, I'm actually cutting really close, and that can actually be kind of helpful when I'm trying to blend out that electric shaver line if my other attempts using it right side up were unsuccessful. However, in regards to the angle of attack, when I'm cutting the front, all that hair below, we want it gone. So it's really not that big of a deal. So you're not gonna see many barbers that are holding their trimmer up too high. So basically, I wanna make sure that all that hair is gone, but watching that angle of attack is really important when it comes to doing the hard parts, because you don't want your hard part looking like a road went through the side of his head, and you wanna be able to control the width of that line. It's a nice tip to use a little bit of hairspray before you do the edge up. What that's going to do is that's going to hold the hair still. It's going to allow your trimmer to cut really good, and you also want to keep a comb on hand to comb all those little hairs down so that you can get everything into the edge that you need to, and it's going to take you just a little bit less time. And now for shorter hair, after I spray it, I like to blow dry it forward to try to get all that hair to lay down and it stays in place, and I can get the most out of my trimmer this way. The other tip I can give you with clients who wear their hair shorter on top is a front fade. And all this really means is that the area in the bangs, the area in the very front, that's going to get cut just a tiny bit shorter, and if you do your edge into that, now it's really going to pop out. It's really not going to have so many of those little long hairs that are getting in your way, so you're not doing the edge like 25 times and still finding hair. Basically, a good example for this would be if I did a number 2 on top, I might take a 1 open and just travel into the very front of his hairline, making that a little bit shorter so that there isn't so much little hairs overhanging, so that when I come in there and I cut them, it's just going to be a little bit easier. To begin with, you should analyze your client's edge up. Now, if the hair in the front is long, I like to use a hair grip or a clip to hold it out of my way. But at the same time, be careful if you're using a hair grip or a hair clip, because what that does is it actually can pull the scalp up a little bit, and then as soon as you take it out, boom, your edge up could be crooked. So I would put that in with as little tension as possible. Next, this is a key tip here. You need to use your mirror for perspective. You gotta analyze your client's hairline and decide which side is lower. Most clients don't got no perfect hairline. Now, if you have a client whose edge is low on one side and high on the other, if you were to start on the high side, you're probably going to wind up pushing that higher, and then you're going to have to take out a whole bunch of hair on that other side to try to even it up. So we're always going to try to start on the low side. So if your client's got a nice edge and you can't say one side's better than the other, just start in the middle and work your way out to each edge. There's no set way to work on every client, but the best I can tell you is to use your mirror, and remember, less is more. You can always take more off, but you can't put it back. The best I can tell you here is to not obsess over perfection, because most people's vertical bars, one of them is going to be a little bit shorter, one of them might be a little bit longer. Now, should you cut the longer one off just to match it to the shorter side?
Absolutely not.
Why would you do that? Because in just 2 days, they're going to look bad and you're going to look bad because you did that. So do the best that you can with what you have to work with. So for this, I'll be using the pencil grip, and I'll be just kind of taking it easy over here and just trying to clean them up a little bit. Don't push this too far back. And you especially do not want this to be angled any other way than back.
Some people are going to try to tell you to square it off like 90 degrees, but that's just not true with everybody. You're just going to have to do the best you can with what you have to work with, but you basically want to tip it back in those corners so that it kind of comes down natural and nice. You don't want that thing sort of lean forward or it'll make your edge look funny. And let's not forget, we have our pair of shears, and we can use that to cut off all them little long hairs, and that can also help you to square off your corners just a little bit. But it's more a work of art, just using your mirror and just making sure that you're doing your best and not digging into that hairline too much.
So when you're creating your C-cups, it kind of helps to understand how your trimmer cuts best. What I usually try to do is I try to comb these little hairs down into place, and then I try to angle my trimmer just slightly, and that way I can pick up all them little hairs as well, and I can cut that interior length a little bit, and then I can actually cut just the edge of his hairline by working it back and forth. We'll try to do our best with the shape, but we're going to follow it up with the razor, so don't go crazy on it. Okay, so arching and finishing the back. So these are my favorite anchor points for arching. I like to anchor right behind the ear for this client's left side. So I'll anchor with my middle finger right behind the ear, and I'm gonna kind of create that little circle. It's going to be easy. Now, one thing that you really wanna watch out for is behind the ear, in the middle, I never wanna touch my client like this with the clipper facing down. It may be actually cutting the hair a little bit better, but it can also cut the ear really easy because that skin behind the ear, it's super thin. So I actually like to tip my trimmer right side up and actually just work the hair out like that. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna follow it up with the razor. On the other side with the client's right ear, I like to put my middle finger anchor right in front of the ear and travel back up the other way. Now you're gonna see some grain patterns that are a little bit funny, and you might have to hold the trimmer a little bit different, but this is just a basic way that I do it. And as far as going down the back of the head, that's a pretty good time to switch to your trimmer that may not be set so tight so that you don't irritate the client's neck, but you're just gonna finish that off however you want. So now that we pretty much have our edge up complete, there's definitely one more final step we need to do. We need to be careful before we give this client the mirror and we show them something that's all jacked up. So one thing that I really like to do, and I think it's brought my edge ups a long way, is to actually tip the client up and tip the client down. Now, what you're gonna actually notice is most edge ups are gonna look a lot better when you tip the client down. So if you're taking pictures, tip the client down and it's gonna make your edge look a little bit better. But when you tip the client up, that's usually when you're going to see a mistake. And that's why nobody takes their pictures this way, because it's gonna be a little bit more obvious. At the end of the day, when we're drawing a straight line across our forehead, we're drawing a straight line across the round object. So the perspective that you get from your camera or the perspective that you get from your mirror is going to go a long way in helping you fix it. And you can do the same thing in the back of the head. If it turns out that you're not tapering it off, maybe you're squaring the client's neckline, or maybe you're just rounding it, you want to make sure that that's even as well. So have the client look all the way down and have the client kind of tip their head a couple different ways. You might just see something that you want to fix. So I'll give you a little tip to help you match your sideburns as well. What I like to do is I like to take both of my fingers, right? And I like to place them right at the bottom of where I cut. And then I like to get down on eye level with it. And it's so easy for you to see if one finger is a little bit higher than the other, and it's very easy to make the adjustment, especially when you're using the mirror. So that's something you can do if your client actually wears a straight sideburn. Make sure you do that, because it's just a terrible thing when you do such a great haircut, you do all this work, and then you make a little mistake because one's a little bit higher than the other. And then the client uses that to validate how good you are as a barber. So double check them sideburn lengths. Okay, so watching this lesson and learning from me is great, but the thing that you really need to do is you need to take this to the field and you need to get this into practice. So what I would suggest that you guys do, if you don't have a client to work with, get you a mannequin, and I want you to work on this. I want you to take your trimmer and I want you to find what feels comfortable for you as far as anchor points. Try using your knuckle, try using that pencil grip, try using your pinky. Find what works for you and practice that on your mannequin. Now the other thing you could do is, after you edge up your mannequin, obviously the hair is not going to grow back. You can start putting some designs in there that sort of mimic what we're trying to do. So you can try to practice your designs, and you could just try to practice creating different shapes, and you're going to get good at the edge up in no time. I actually think that learning how to do the edge up is probably one of the first things that new students begin to kind of master, but it does take a lot of work, it does take a lot of practice, and it definitely takes some time for you guys to look in the mirror and check out that perspective. With that being said, let's go on into the final thoughts. So now that our trimmer work is done, we need to follow up with the razor. And that leads me to our next video, where we'll discuss the 4 strokes and some good positions to stand in to really help you get that edge perfect. And the other thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be dropping a video on enhancements to help the edge stand out for clients like me who are getting a little bit of thin. And also for them clients that you just put a ton of work into that cut and you know it's looking really good and you want to get that photo, you want to get that great picture so that you can advertise your business. Now I hope you learned something in this video. I hope it really helps you. And if you guys think I did a good job with this video, I want you guys to do me a favor. Drop the comment fire, Eddie's Army down below, and I'll see you guys in my video about how to use the razor. And we're almost to phase 6 and this course is almost complete. So I really hope that we're making a difference. Phases 1 through 6. If you guys watch all of them, if you guys do all the homework, if you guys do all the suggested things that I told you, I really think that you guys are going to be able to do some great haircuts and you're going to be able to have a good career in this business.